still trying to fight to see if they can stay undefeated. If they want to do so, they've got to find a win here, or can the Highland Ravens slow this one down? We're going to jump into game number 1 with Dave and Miff.
Standings very important in this set as well. Right now, everyone chasing the Oni Warriors, the Highland Ravens hoping to keep pace. Oni Warriors could really, really build up that gap with the win here. This is a big conversation piece, Smith. You were off celebrating your birthday yesterday, going crazy.
My life is a movie.
Now that your brain is fully developed.
At 25.
At 25. That's right. This is what you get. This is it. Your mental fortitude right now, your mental capacity, that's it.
It's all downhill.
And we get to talk about the Oni Warriors and the Ravens with some of that newfound capacity. Wondered if this would be a Ravens team that would finally unseat either the Warriors or the Kings this weekend. Those are the two Highland Ravens matchups.
God, tough week for the Ravens.
Brutal weekend for the Ravens. Could be a great weekend. It's a prove-it type of weekend, I think, for a lot of the teams here in this league. Now you're 3 weeks in. You got a lot of data behind you. Still one where you're favoring the Warriors just because of history, but should end up being a close matchup.
I really like the composition the Ravens have come up with here. You've got smart counters to individual pieces of the Oni Warriors. Feels like Haddix in particular is going to be a major keystone for the late game team fight on the Highland Ravens. You can completely stop the healing from both Jake and SOT. Both are really susceptible to the cage. Cavalry charge, wall, he's stuck. Jake has to auto 5 times, and supports don't exactly build up a whole lot of attack speed. And even Pagon, to a certain extent, that crushing wave, a bit telegraphed in late game team fights. It's pretty obvious when the Hebo decides he's taken too much damage and it's time to return some. A wall like that could really separate that fight. So the Oni Warriors, I think, probably put a little bit more onus on the early game. Get used to hearing me say that, though.
Oof, Panatom. Really, maybe one more auto, or if Brutalized just had a bit more damage behind it. Could have gotten first blood onto Ven. These are a couple of picks the Oni Warriors love. You look at a Fenrir, you look at a Hebo between Panatom and Pagon, especially the 2v2 early in lane. Clearly on the same page with these couple of picks.
Yeah, I like to call Fenrir the god of give me a lead, and Hebo the god of I'm going to keep this lead, right?
Yep.
So Fenrir very good at getting things started up in the early game, facilitating these lanes. It's not as if he falls off entirely. In the latest portions, maybe you're not using Brutalize as often, but you've got the auto attacks to make up for it thanks to Seething Howl. But give your Hebo a lead, nobody wants to step up to him. It's a tough task already to shut down the god of 4 ultimates. Tougher still if he's got a lead.
Some scrapping in duo, but maybe enough sustain here that it's going to take a rotation from one of the junglers to make something happen. Panatom, in the meantime, rotates right. Scream in tow.
Ooh,
and the fight over the cooldown buff goes to Scream. Jumps in, steals it away right at the last moment. Haddix a stun away from a little more damage into SOT. Jungle matchup, Miff. An interesting one. And Scream with the ever-menacing Blessed Scepter start. Bit different, maybe, from how we expected Kali builds to go.
Yeah, I wonder what synergies he's looking for there. We'll have to keep our eyes on that build as the game develops. All we need to know about Scream right now in this Kali is that he has gone for what I can only assume is going to be a much slower build, as well as he's playing a pretty slow pick in general. The conversation in Season 9 around Kali was, she comes online a bit faster than she used to. You don't need to worry about boots. Get your kin size or whatever auto attack item you want available very early on. Generally use that Golden Blade in first slot, and then you can start getting a little bit more active. I think this will slow him down pretty significantly here. But when you look at the Highland Ravens composition as a whole, it's not a draft that is contingent on the early game. They are very content, the Ravens that is, to just wait it out, continue farming their own stuff, and try not to lose out too big in the early.
That is a successful purple buff invade, but will it be successful for much longer? Ven is rotated out of mid, and he's got fire for Jake. Barracuda's got a dash forward, and when you're going to attack an Afro, sub-level 5, there's no undying love around the corner. And that is not something the Oni Warriors are immune to. Great, we've stolen the purple, but we've done too much. Ven has rotated over and helped out the Ravens with first blood.
That's a great rotation from Ven. Caught me off guard. We've got the bird's eye view. I had no idea. He was already on path to make it over towards that duo lane. A very telegraphed invade by the Oni Warriors, and it takes them a good deal of time with Hurry Wind slowing them down around that purple buff. Allows the opportunity for Ven to make his way across the map. Meanwhile, though, Pagon able to shove a couple of minions into that tier 1 tower. should make up the difference of the assist that Ven had gotten for himself, and maybe even a bit of an experienced lead for this Hebo. Though, when you take into account the compositions, you want to see more from the Oni Warriors at this point. 300 gold behind, not exactly where they need to be.
Nope, saw Panatom active in the 2v2 in mid. Not much sense then. Netroid dashes away. Izanami, of course, can clear waves quickly thanks to the piercing autos. Also able to turn and dash away. And you've got an Aphrodite in lane with you, so sustain, but mainly safety with that Undying Love. With this Kali, Vital Amplifier is the pickup. We've seen a lot of CAD Club picked up over in the solo lane, Myth. And so it's really that attack speed and basic attack damage.
But
because you get physical power, you get health, you get attack speed. So
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
It's not a bad item for Kali.
yeah, I was thinking it had to be Vital Amplifier, but I'm thinking to myself, what in Kali's kit is going to give it to you? Maybe the reset on kill gives you a stack. I know the leap gives you a bit of healing as well, but I'd almost assume that and the verbiage escapes me right now, Dave. I'm sorry. It's a new interaction here, but I believe that was ability lifesteal, but maybe it might be HP stolen, which should proc that passive as well.
Find out. Scream wailing away as Sot caged in and waits it out long enough. And so Sot will be A-OK. And for now, SOT lives on. That is a scary threat, though, Myth, over in the solo lane. Haddix, specifically against this Guan Yu. You throw down a cage, and there could be enough damage once Scream starts to get some extra itemization online to make life a bit more scary for SOT. For now, he'll end up living, and a slight lead is built up for Scream out of the jungle. It's time for Panatom, though, Myth. Got Jotun's a little extra CDR. It is time for this Fenrir to find his impact.
Yeah, but when you look at who the Fenrir is going to get active on, Barracuda's got an immediate answer to Brutalize. The Bramble Blast going to cancel that one out, and it's pretty easy to aim. Brutalize, not exactly a sneaky ability. You know exactly where he is and where he's going to be. Ven with the Flicker can break the Brutalize as well. Hurrywin, not only self-peel, but peeling for allies with that stun. Kali as well has a really smart answer. Haddix takes a little bit more time to charge up that Gungnir's Might, but still certainly a stun. Doug, actually, can you get a look at the ability order here from Panatom? I wonder if he's even elected to max out that Brutalize. And he has.
Yep.
So perhaps we'll find some opportunities soon. It's the most damage output you can get from Fenrir in the early game. But often when there are so frequent answers to Brutalize, we'll see Unchained or maybe Seething Howl, the priority. Panatom seems unconcerned. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do with it early on.
Got Blink and opportunities. Now, the game is stabilized despite that early kill for the Highland Ravens. But again, you've talked about how this is maybe the game plan that they don't mind. A team that has really found its identity, it feels like. Pagon. Take a little damage from Hurrywin, who's rotated over towards mid lane. Just need to give this Hebo some time to scale up. The Ravens seemingly, Myth, a team that has found a bit of an identity. We were wondering if this would be Bolts 2.0, you know, if they're going to fall prey to very similar losses that we saw from that Bolts team. No, it's been a lot more active, and a lot of it has been through this guy right here, Scream. Dark Portal used from Netroid. Sends a silence towards Bera. Awesome Jake, ever so patient with the Undying Love. Holds on to the ultimate. And the Ravens continue to apply a bit of pressure over on the left side, but still just the one kill to show for it.
Dave, I'm going to be completely honest with you.
This always scares me. When you say I'm going to be completely honest, I'm always worried.
Be worried. I didn't hear a single thing you've said in the last minute because I'm still thinking about Scream's build right now. Does Lash, the lifesteal that you get from Lash, does that proc the Vital Amplifier? I know the Leap does, and I'm certain the Ultimate does, but those are so inconsistent. You're not getting the full value, are you? It's got to be the Lash.
Your guess is as good as mine, Myth. Panatom will trade nothing for a kill onto Hurrywin. He'll get it for free and nearly invade successfully the purple buff. Barracuda is able to secure that one. That's a good grouping from the Oni Warriors. Hadn't seen much life from this team. It had felt a bit piecemeal. Everyone kind of off on one different lane from one another. And so feeling the jungle presence, a good indicator. Ven aggressive onto Pagon. Remember, there's some history in this mid lane matchup, Myth. Pagon v Ven, where Pagon has gotten the better of Ven in the past, but don't mind a flicker forward just to make Pagon think twice.
Yeah, catch him out on the rotation back through. Pagon had already used the crushing wave So Ven not exactly worried about the turnaround potential this Hebo had, and forcing him back or maybe even forcing out a relic would have been very valuable for the Highland Ravens there. So good eyes from Ven to realize he's given the opportunity to get a bit more aggressive in that lane, if even it's not exactly necessary for the Highland Ravens throughout the early. Lonely Warriors, though, starting to hit some very significant power spikes. Around that level 9, you're getting your second point into ultimate, so Pagon's burst a little bit more consistent. Maybe you've got Jake with that Undying Love a little bit more often as well. Could open the door to early objective fights. We talked about the late game team fight of the Highland Ravens and how disruptive Haddix can be. And answer to that for the Oni Warriors is force the fight before Haddix can get involved. Maybe have SOT force a teleport in lane, have Haddix sent back to base. All of a sudden, you've got an opportunity to start looking towards that Gold Fury. And Barracuda has not been struggling in lane by any stretch, not in the 1v1, but it hasn't been a 1v1 for Barracuda. He's been fighting up against 2 or 3 the entirety of the last 9 minutes, and that has slowly started to add up to about a half-level lead for Netrioid. Automization maybe favoring the Izanami a bit more as well.
Hurrywind has felt the pressure in the last couple minutes, has fallen 1 level behind Awesome Jake. It's the famous Tier 2 Odibo for Scream as his build continues to unfold. Blink forward. There's the
sick.
heal on the jump in, but the Undying Love. Perfect from Awesome
Wow.
Jake. It screams an afterthought. A cage from Haddix. Necessary to keep his team alive, or maybe a Hurrywind. Locked in with the
SOT.
Oni Warriors. SOT has dove the Tier 1, and he's looking for a second kill. One last auto will get it, and it's a double for SOT. He should fall, as Barracuda will trade out 1, but 4 members of the Ravens are down on a dive from the Oni Warriors.
That fight would have been so much different if Jake isn't spot on with Undying Love. He clowned Scream to start off that engagement. Scream goes in with a blink forward immediately into the stun. Jake, Undying Love's both stun targets, makes it so easy for the immediate turnaround. CC onto Scream immediately afterward as well. And there is no death immunity to be had. Not fast enough to stop a crushing wave from completely removing you from the map. From there, simple for the Oni Warriors. And a smart rotation from SOT. Thought maybe a couple of those kills would slip away. Ven starting to work his way back into that tower. It's not safe if SOT's there, and he was.
Now, Miff, I think it's worth mentioning, and this is actually a good opportunity. You know, so much of the early season Oni Warriors talk was about how they're a scrappy team, individual, and of course they still have all this great mechanical play. It's a team, though, that doesn't just draft chaotic, wild team comps, right? This is still a team that in the last couple of weeks has showed us pretty consistent, general good team fighting drafts, and I think that's a really good moment right there, where it's still a scrappy, instant mechanical type fight where Jake is really on it with the reaction. But I think the Oni Warriors team, while they are capable of these individual 1v2 solo man type plays, they've also changed the identity a bit. I think this is a team that can play very cohesively and aggressively as a unit, and I think that's a good team fight as an example.
Yeah, one of the primary strengths of the Oni Warriors right now is that almost always they are all on the same page.
Right.
If a fight's going to happen, SOT's already made the rotation out of lane. There are not many soul laners that are just ready to dive a tier 1 tower 10 minutes in. SOT is that guy. There are not many people that are able to build synergy, you know, with a support and jungle or a support and duo. So often we say, wow, this duo lane is really good together. That's where they want to play. The support and hunter generally stick together. Jake has immense synergy with Panatom. He's got it with Netrioid. He's facilitating Pagon. They're always ready to make up for shortcomings, and there are not often shortcomings that need making up.
Man, Aegis on it from Pagon. Jake is
Simple.
about to get Undying Love back. Not needed. Scream deleted by the Hebo. Now Sada's just going to continue going forward. Ven needed every ounce of peel from Hurrywind, and he got it at the pivotal moment. Gold Fury a moment ago got picked up by the Oni Warriors. Pyro traded out by the Highland Ravens. But this is where the concern starts to build. Things starting to get a bit messy. You're 2,500 gold behind. 5,000 experience behind. A lot of that in jungle, mid, and support. All of it. And it's really the 3 levels
Wow.
between Hurrywind and Jake that's making the difference.
Yeah, Jake's been around for a good long while in this mid lane, has been soaking up a lot of farm, but because he's making impact plays while he's there, it's not as if he's just taking waves from Pagon and that's the end of it. It's setting up Pagon, keeping him alive, facilitating Panatom, all the while soaking up some of that farm. So you see it reflected in mid. Now 2-level lead for Pagon over Ven, and that is an incredibly scary thought. Beads not available for 30 seconds, but nothing to fight over for the next couple of minutes means we could see the game piddle out a little bit, slow down, or potentially, and if the Oni Warriors have their way, continue their signature pace of, all right, no neutral objectives. Let's start working on the permanent objectives. Group up to go some of these weakened tier 1s. Maybe that duo lane, a good place to start.
Yeah, make no mistake. Oni Warriors still a very fight-heavy team. I only mean that it feels more calculated rather than at that kickoff tournament where it was the Wild West, everyone running it down. You're right, Miff. Could be an eye towards this tier 1
look
tower.
Look at that grouping.
Man, Net takes a whole mountain of damage, but Barracuda is in some trouble here. Or is he? Really, the purple buff is what should be the Ravens should be concerned with. Sada's had a good last couple of minutes as well. Lotus Sickle added into the build. Not something we always see Guan Yu pick up. It certainly synergizes well, and we got a couple of them. Awesome Jake also has one. So lifesteal and then utility for both the healers. Oni Warriors group up, take down the tier 1 tower. And now it gets awkward, Miff. I mean, the Ravens fine with stalling the game out. But now that you've fallen behind and the Oni Warriors start to build up some momentum, wondering how you have to play it.
It's if they can keep it, the Highland Ravens that is, if they can keep it to this 3,000 or so that it is just now for the next 7 minutes, you're fine. 3,000, realm of acceptable losses, experience definitely the more important of the two resources at this point. It's this next round of neutral objectives that is going to be incredibly important. I always say 5,000 gold's that red flag of, oh no, what are we going to do? That's like nearly an item for everybody, about 1,000 each if you want to say it's split evenly. So you're getting like a tier 1, tier 2 item, something like that. That's when the fights start to lean heavily in favor of one side or the other. So I think the Highland Ravens need Haddix involved in this next fight. They need him involved very early on, and he's capable of doing so, has already upgraded to the heroic teleport, blink as well, to get into that back line, has sacrificed a bit of his build to upgrade those relics, though. Only the 2 items for defense, which means Pagon's going to have a field day, given the opportunity to make contact with this Odin on the other side. But if Haddix can get a cage onto Jake or prevent SOT from using that cavalry charge or catch Panatom on Ragnarok, could really, really slow down the Oni Warriors' roll. Because the last couple of team fights that have gone the Oni Warriors' way have been counterpunch, and the counterpunch comes swiftly. Oh, you've stuck around too long, stun in a massive burst. Prevent that first wave of massive burst, and maybe the Oni Warriors might fumble a bit.
Now's the time to see how the Ravens answer, because the next round of neutral objectives are here. No one picked up the phone. There was no answer. And Panatom will end up going back and grabbing the Runic Bomb, and Oni Fury will be here. Luckily for the Ravens, you're able to deal with Oni waves pretty effectively at the 15-minute mark. Boy, you can't afford to do, especially with the burn, and we know the aggression the Oni Warriors play with. If you lose a fight anywhere near Fire Giant, Oni Warriors on the same page that they could immediately turn into something like that. So maybe you're okay if you're the Ravens just giving up this Oni Fury, but 4 men from both squads on the left side of the map. Mids can rotate over pretty quickly. Panatom has picked up his pace a bit. Hasn't had to do much really as far as initiation goes. Helped out in some fighting a few minutes ago. That said, a couple big power spikes hit now, Miff. Scream and Barracuda both adding kin size. That item in a very strong spot right now. And it looks like Netroid having to use the beads over in mid. Small bits of wins here for the Ravens, but can you turn it into a fight?
You know, I actually really like these kin size from the Ravens. I don't like the positioning from the Ravens, though. This Fury just going to go down. No presence once more. And the Oni Warriors extend their lead just ever so slightly. But the kin size, I think, on both Scream and Barracuda smart, because it's not just SOT who's tanky. It's not just Jake. Panatom as well has gone towards a defensive path. Yep. And Awesome Jake's going to make one of the 2 squishies, Pagon or Netroid, a tank as well, thanks to the defense shared from the Kiss. So that means you really need the HP shred. Everybody's probably going to be around that 2,500 mark in the late game, so you're going to get the full value of that kin size, that passive scaling, depending on how much max HP your opposition has. So I think very smart from the Highland Ravens. The only issue is you're sacrificing burst into a team that has a whole lot of healing. So if it's a lot of consistent damage, it'll probably be healed up very quickly. And that's not even going into the inherent synergies of Guan Yu and Aphrodite. You have the heals from Aphrodite, then Guan Yu heals, of course, so 2 sources of sustain. But Guan Yu is also reducing Aphrodite's cooldowns every single time, bringing even further healing to the rest of the Oni warriors. This is potentially one of the most annoying comps you could play into, because it's not just, okay, well, they're healing, we need to make sure our first wave of initiation works. It's they're healing, and also Pagon might one-shot somebody when we go in.
Yep.
Very difficult to find your opportunities into something like this.
Pagon's got his percent pen rolling. Rod of Tahuti, Charon's coin, some flat pen with a Deso. Already seeing nice damage out of the Hebo, and far and away.
What was that XP per minute?
I was going to say, far and away the XP per minute leader,
Wow.
712. Next highest at 685. He is level 18 at the 18-minute mark. It's not often you see level 20 at 20, but that's the pace Pagon is holding right now.
He's on pace for sure.
If
That's
he,
crazy.
If he maintains. Net worth, he's way up there. I'm looking for the Merlin. He's 1,000 gold behind, which, you know,
That's
generally
objectives.
couple of tiers of items. So he's just been just a farm machine. Pagon has gotten himself into a really, really strong spot. Ven just a level behind, but the XP per minute's a nice mark. Nearly 10,000 damage for Pagon as well at the 18.5-minute mark. He'll easily cross 10K in the next fight, provided that he is not
One auto.
insta-deleted. Pagon, Jake, they're rotating over towards right. Scream provides 10,000, the 10,000 player damage threshold to Pagon. And now it's this rotation myth of neutral objectives that the Ravens need to be concerned about. A Pyromancer's here. They did not show face around the Pyro or the Oni Fury last time. They're going to have another opportunity around this Pyro and this Primal Fury. But I'm not sure I'm getting the indicators that the Ravens are super keen on fighting.
The risk here is that Netroid has spent a lot of time out of lane, and Barracuda, given that time to farm up, need to make something happen on the right side of the map. Pyromancer nice, and Barracuda does not keep up his pressure, so no threat to tier 2. SOT, though, he needs help.
SOT actually kind of pins himself back beneath the wall.
No
Undying
way.
love from Jake. It's on it again.
No.
Then Sot not only lives, but gets the kill. Jake has just stuffed the Highland Ravens time and time again this game. And the Oni Warriors have 2 runic bombs to add to this Fire Giant pull. Hurrywind poked out a bit by Pagon. Fire Giant down to half HP, but the Highland Ravens, they are just not on this side of the map. Sot has gone left and kept Barracuda on that side. Pagon is zoning everyone out. And the runic bombs are on FG. And they're going to get used to confirm FG. 20 minutes. And the Fire Giant right there for the Oni Warriors.
Man, Jake has just been playing different recently. That was perfect execution. SOT gets the beads off Barracuda. Should be able to make his way out.
Teleport out of Haddocks.
Maybe a team fight here.
Sot. Polymorphed. Yeah, Ravens, you're baiting yourself into a fight.
That's not
Writing's
good.
got to be on the walls. Brutalize out from Panatom.
He's a tank.
And it's just Hurrywind who falls. But that just ushered the Oni Warriors to the left side of the map. This team is so effective at grouping. And you're right, Miss, staying on the same page. And those are the type of individual play moments where Jake, in an Undying Love, it's perfect. Sot then goes left, baits in a few members of the Ravens. Those are the individual moments that then bring about the team fight moments.
Yeah, the pathing from Sot in the cage to buy as much time as he possibly could have. The timing of the heal from Jake, literally frame 1 of the cage dropping. The shell timing, just miserable for Scream on the other side, who's got to be thinking to himself, finally, a pick. We've got an opportunity. This is what we need. I have to kill this guy, or they're going to get fire. Even if they TKO me, the Oni Warriors likely get fire off that. Need to get this reset. Need to get something rolling. Need to get something started for my team. And then to be that close, maybe 1, 2 auto attacks. And at this amount of attack speed, those 2 auto attacks come in less than a second for a Scream. But still not enough to secure that kill thanks to the phenomenal peel from Awesome Jake. I mean, this Aphrodite has just been on point all game.
And you were right. You mentioned it earlier, and I agree. Jake has just been playing differently this year. Feels like found some synergy with this squad.
No defense.
And
2-1 right.
Looked really, really strong alongside his Oni Warriors teammates. Triple root out of Hurrywind. Jake is in the cage, but there's an Undying Love on the other end. That's what Aphrodite gets you. And the left side Phoenix is down. Ven has to flicker away from Panatom, who picked him up in the Ragnarok. And Sod will hop off the horse, and it's going to take Panatom jumping in to clean up the kill. Now it's Scream with a chance to fight. Oni Warriors stick around. Oh, Pagon levels Barracuda. And this fight goes on Hurrywin somehow grasping to life.
Got the movement speed.
And just needs a bit more damage
He's
as
chasing
Pagon.
it.
He's going
The
underneath
juke?
the Phoenix, and a double kill from Pagon. And nearly an insta-gib onto Bera. 1 Phoenix down and 3 members of the Ravens for the Warriors.
That is ideal for Pagon there. Water Spout knocks you up in the direction that you are currently traveling. Barracuda stepping forward for just a second, gets knocked up around the corner into the crushing wave combo, which puts Pagon in range to chase out Hurrywind. Just perfect from the Warriors.
This is where the Warriors have won a lot of games. It's when the defense goes too far. The Highland Ravens have stepped up and eat their Phoenix. My
Yikes.
goodness, Scream takes the water hands to the jaw. And the mid lane Phoenix also falls. Oni Warriors not making any mistakes here. They will back away. They are happy with the bounty that they've gathered, and it's left and mid Phoenixes. And another mountain of gold to go back and spend.
And the timing of it as well. Fire Giant buff just wearing off. Pyromancer on the respawn, so your next Fire Giant should be a little bit easier to acquire with another Runic Bomb in pocket. And the Highland Ravens will have no reprieve. Every single one of mid and left waves going to be enhanced to the Oni Warriors going forward. So many teams immediately reset here, Dave. So many teams, after grabbing these Phoenixes and grabbing the Pyro, head back to base. Not the Oni Warriors. They're not going to give you any time to breathe. They see a pick.
They do see a pick. It's on to Haddix. Fire Giant's going to spawn here in 20.
He's out.
Luckily, the cage from Haddix is well placed. And Haddix has enough CDR that the cage should be back. If a big team fight were to break out. The Oni Warriors will not insta-pull the FG. You know, when you look at the average game time across the league, it is a bit longer here in Season 10. However, it feels like the Oni Warriors are constantly pressing that metric. This is a team that likes ending these games in the 25 to 30 range, which is, 5 or so minutes. Call it 1 less FG, it feels like, than the rest of the league. And the Ravens have just not been able to keep pace.
Yeah, I won't speak to the literal speed of their games, but I will
Sure.
speak to the pace of play that the Oni Warriors have established. So often it's get a kill, get a resource, an objective, a permanent objective, a neutral objective, it doesn't matter. Go back to base, spend that gold. That is the traditional Smite, just PEMDAS, right? That's the order of operations for so many of these teams. The Oni Warriors are always looking for one extra thing. You'll see it frequently. Oh, we got a kill, we got a Primal Fury. I think they're going to step up here because they think we're backing to spend up this gold, and they get a little bit more on top of it. And if they slip too much, the enemies, that is, if the Highland Ravens get picked, all of a sudden it's, well, we don't need to go back to base. It's a 5v4. It's the speed of play and the frequency of questions asked that the Oni Warriors are just ahead on.
Pagon is doubling up everyone in this game as far as damage. Panatom, he's overstepped. Phantom Shell used. On the last bit of that Phantom Shell gets Panatom out alive. You got a Merlin on defense if you're the Highland Ravens. That always feels good. Pagon, nice double knock up. And he actually goes forward. Oh my god, Ven thought he was backing away, but Pagon flips it and sends Merlin right back to base. Now there's the Oni Warriors. They've got sustain, and they can hang out around this right side Phoenix a bit longer. Do not have minion waves in mid or left, and may need to reset.
SOT has teleport, could come back pretty quickly. Instead, resustain. I mean, why head back to base? The Oni Warriors, they're back at full fighting strength just about. Only SOT weakens.
Keep your eyes on the Hebo. That's going to be the last bit of this
There
fight.
he goes.
Scream goes in, and Pagon turns it. Scream stunned. Pagon crushing wave for the Rampage. Hurrywind outside of Phoenix range, though.
Uh-oh.
Utility now down from the Oni Warriors, and everyone but Pagon's got to keep this fight going. It's Netrioid still on the map. And it's Ven, Hurry, and Bera defending the right side Phoenix.
3v3 on the right.
Fire
Phoenix
minions.
weakened. Runic bombs available to the Oni Warriors. You're right. Fire minions in base.
Whoa, Panatom, he's blinked forward. He's got Ven, and Netrioid's on
So
a killing
smart.
spree. And Netrioid trading autos with Bera, but Awesome Jake steps forward and blocks the autos. You're right. Runic bomb in the back pocket of Jake, not needed. Panatom with the Brutalize onto Hurrywind. Won't get much. Mid Phoenix will respawn, and it looks like the left side Phoenix just went back down to fire minions. And so that is completely reset. And these death timers are long enough, and there's enough sustain here. The Warriors are going to be able to drop their third bird, and the Highland Ravens are going to be defending the next FG with all 3 Phoenixes down.
SOT's made his way back. Could turn this into a pick. Scream on respawn. Will try his best to maintain the base, but only gets those minion waves off. Dave, I don't want it to be lost because it was a small play, but it was incredibly impressive. It's Panatom who goes forward. I believe it was a blink forward to get the Ragnarok pickup, right? But he's at 20, maybe 30% HP, tanking up the Phoenix. Immediately off Blink, Jake uses Undying Love to immune all damage returned, as well as the Phoenix Fire, while Panatom is just dragging his opposition out of that Phoenix. I mean, that has got to be a practice play. That's not something you're coming up with on the spot. That is incredibly clean. What's the response to that? I mean, he's literally faster than you. He's now immune to damage. He's immune to CC, and he teleported in front of you. I mean, I've said it maybe 3 times this game, and I'll say it again. Just miserable for the Ravens.
Yep, that's how it feels right now to play against the Oni Warriors. You know, on the waiting room, there's only game 1. There's a long set. So I'm gonna try to avoid a
plenty of
future,
Smite to be played.
Right, I'm gonna avoid future chaos here in this set, but this was always the threat when we didn't think the Oni Warriors were gonna lose this weekend. We didn't know if they were gonna lose against the Ravens. It's because it feels like they can just outpace their opponents. Scream.
Does have jump? No
does
way.
have ultimate. Yeah, but Sot's got cavalry charge.
Uh-huh.
There'll be a stun, awaiting for Scream. And the question is this now an opening for this game just to end? That's I wish that moment could have been visually caught. You covered your eyes, you turned away from the screen, you couldn't bear to watch. And if there was any hope of a defense around FG, which I'm not sure there was,
I don't think there's going to be an
gone.
FG.
I don't even know if there's going to be an FG. Is that a game-losing type moment now for the Ravens?
It could be, had any more of the Ravens even been a bit further forward there. Seems the Oni Warriors happy to go ahead and grab everything on the map. What a consolation prize. Couldn't end the game. Instead, we got the Fury, the Pyromancer, all your jungle camps, and the Fire Giant. Oops. Sorry, guys. That is backbreaking. And I guarantee you, this is exactly what Scream utters as it happens. Why are they here?
Yeah.
Left side, Phoenix isn't even respawning. Fire Giant is literally up. Why are they here? The question being asked is the answer itself, because you had no idea.
That's right.
The Oni Warriors just catch you with your pants down and left into the freest pick of their lives.
Scream. Picked up Vital Amplifier first. Unfortunately, his vitals have been 0, and you can't amplify 0 any more than that. The Highland Ravens have lost their jungler a few times. 1 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the death column for all the Highland Ravens. And then Barra has like a normal positive KDA. But been a difficult game. 15-6 in kills, and the gold will cross 10,000 after this FG. And what's worse, it's enhanced. In the moment that the Oni Warriors pick it up, at the exact 30-minute mark of this game, Fire Giant turns enhanced. Left side Phoenix clinging to life, but Oni Fire minions now ushering in the Oni Warriors. Could be looking at the last few moments of this game.
Yeah, right side Bird spawning shortly. Oni Warriors will start there. They've got 3 bombs in pocket. But is it not the Bird? They've stepped forward.
Just drop them on the Titan. I mean,
Might work.
You can clear, the runic bombs. It's worth mentioning. The Ravens can deal with the runic bombs, but if your eyes turn towards the bombs, then the Oni Warriors just have, the actual god damage that they're looking to do. Jake steps forward. Why wouldn't he? Titan down, just above half HP. The Warriors have dominated game 1. Netroid's got a dash away. That was 2 of the 3 runic bombs used at the end. I didn't even get a chance to call the Titan siege. The Oni Warriors, I don't know if you call it quick work, but do some work here in game 1 against the Ravens.
That undefeated record, and they've got to try a lot through here. The Thotham Artikros, it's got to come in big for the carries, and the Highland Ravens have got to go big in game number 2. Can they do it? Let's find out and jump right in.
I mean, if the Oni Warriors continue the pace that they just brought, they may just outpace the Highland Ravens here in game 2. But the Ravens have totally changed up their mentality here, Miff. They've gone Vamana, Pele, Thoth, Ymir, and then Barracuda on the Marty ADC. And in the desk, expressed maybe a little bit of concern around the fact that it's ADC Marty instead of where we've really seen him succeed, which is over in the mid lane. Do you share similar concerns?
I think that as far as laning phase is concerned, I'm not thinking Marty's going to struggle.
No.
I tend to agree with what Charlie had said. It's what do you do with a lead? How are you going to rotate into these objectives? Is Marty going down the crit tree? Does he have lifesteal? If he doesn't have lifesteal, who's tanking gold in the early go If he does go down the crit tree, are you really getting the value of Marty's abilities? The answer is no. So you have to go with this ability build, which means you're not getting crit, which means you're not burning objectives, which could make it a bit more difficult come 15, 20 minutes once we're looking at Fire Giants, once we're looking at contested Gold Furies or contested Pyromancers. That's not to say that it can't work. It's just it almost necessitates, Marty, that is, grabbing a pick before the fight or grabbing maybe a little bit more of a significant advantage, whereas a standard crit hunter, there are scenarios, although not often, but there are scenarios where it's a 5-on-5 stack, but you feel confident enough to pull the objective. I don't necessarily see that with a Marty.
I think one thing the Ravens really struggled with, Myth, was the double healer style of composition that the Oni Warriors had in game 1. It was Guan Yu plus Aphrodite. I mean, it's a bit different healing now, but you still got a Terra and a Guan Yu. In a rare level 2 gank over to solo lane is what Scream's thinking about. He's there, but Sod dodges out the last bit of damage and
He's got to be dead.
Looks like
He's gotta be
SOT
alive.
will be okay. Normally jungle right to mid at level 2, but Sot lives this time, and he'll make his way beneath the tier 1 for some safety.
And now it's Panatom up against Scream in the jungle. Panatom probably does not have the damage to take this trade. Fortunately for him, Scream, no point in the knockup just yet. SOT playing with fire, though. I don't like how far up he is.
He's still here.
Yeah, Scream's nearby. No blink, though.
But so is Panatom. This is going to be a battle over in the solo lane.
Oh
Sot dashes
my God.
through, puts Panatom on the front foot, but it's Scream who gets the first kill. And it's immediately answered back by Panatom. So a small win over to the Highland Ravens, who are technically able to get first blood.
Yeah, I thought that was such a nice try from SOT to facilitate first blood going one way or the other. I think Sot realizes once he's all the way up halfway through the lane around that Totem of Skulls, there's really no way he's making it back to the tower line, not with Scream coming from behind him. So instead, the only way out is forward. Has to go through Haddix, just not quite enough damage to burn through all that HP on the Vamana, not this early on.
Hurrywind on Ymir. Only the second Ymir game we've seen in the SPL this year. Did not win the first game that we saw Ymir. Ymir, a very volatile pick. Can either win you games, run down the opponents, or every once in a while you'll fall to 0-8, and that's just life for the game. Good space control, though, for Hurrywind, who has loved these wall-style supports. Has looked good on the Umoja in a couple games that we've seen it. So I guess you have to give a little credit and a little leeway over to Hurry, as we're still really learning his support god pool throughout the year this year. As him and Barra felt okay in the early portion of this laning phase, but really Myth, both junglers not really paying any mind over to the dual lane. Both Scream and Panatom hovering right over in solo once again. The blue buff respawning here shortly. Could be another fight, but Sod has done a great job of poking out Haddix, and Haddix does not have teleport. So yeah, you might just have to give this one up. The blue buff still stands. Will get confirmed eventually by Panatom.
Man, that's tough for Scream. Makes the rotation to try and buy some time. Haddix can't come through too low,
no.
has an entire minion wave in his base, and now he's going to walk out of base to look at the corpse of his speed buff. What did I say game 1? What was that word? Was it miserable?
Yeah, miserable.
Yeah, this seems miserable.
It does not start out feeling much better, that's for sure, for the Highland Ravens.
Oh, and the red buff too? No way.
No, it looks like they.
Okay, no, they got
he might have gotten the smalls, and then Ven just pulled it beneath the tier 1 with the leash. But you know what? That's a really good point, and I think it leans into the play style you were talking about, where the Oni Warriors are a team every moment looking for something, looking for a fight, and then the what's next after that. Always want every bit of juice out of the orange, and the Warriors are making it work here so far. Soul Eater maybe first for Scream. Haven't seen much of this item, but suppose synergizes well with what you're trying to do on Pele.
Yeah, Soul Eater has been the bread and butter for Pele for a very long time. Being able to sustain a bit through all your damage, that 1-for-1 play style that Pele is so good at. This can turn it into a 2-for-1, especially if you get to lead Volcanic Lightning, just really strong with Soul Eater. But it's a similar conversation we had earlier about Sun Wukong on the desk. Is this a Soul Eater meta? Is Soul Eater at the strongest state it's ever been in? No. Is it at the weakest? No to that as well. So it's more so about finding value on your own. Play on field going to be the difference maker here, I think, for Scream. It's going to be difficult, though, because of the nature of the damage that the Oni Warriors are bringing. Scream can go in and heal plenty, but that's only so long as he's outputting damage, and return CC's there.
Oh, he's dealing plenty of damage to Pagon. Scream plus Ven equals kill. And now Hebo, who's fallen. And look, that's something the Highland Ravens didn't do a lot of in game 1. Slow down Pagon. That's Scream knowing his power curve perfectly, and Ven with final judgment there. A good bit of burst on the back end.
And the Thoth and a Hebo matchup is very favorable for Thoth. You need to get point blank on Hebo. To the minion wave, to the Thoth himself if you want to return damage. Very low range god for Pagon out of mid, whereas Thoth is the god of range. You can clear those waves from a very safe distance or put poke into the Hebo, and any bit of poke makes it easier for your jungler to rotate through. It's probably why Charlie had thought there was potential for the Susano to go towards mid. It's just a much better matchup for Susano and a Thoth, as he's got an easier time closing up that gap. But considering Pagon's 0-1 on respawn and immediately walks through his wave to go invade, I'm not thinking Pagon's feeling all that pressed.
No, it feels like Pagon's always got his mind turning and figuring out what the next best thing to go do is. And right now it's lose a little farm and
take
a little farm on the other side. Now the Highland Ravens were able to stabilize game one pretty effectively. It was really mid-game, really I guess at that 4 for 1 or 4 for none over in mid, where the Warriors really blew the doors off of game one. So it wasn't like the Ravens were completely run out of the stadium in the first 10-15 minutes of the first game. When group time came, the Warriors really caught them off guard just the once and didn't put up much of a fight around the objectives later on. Now, one thing that was missing is one thing that the Ravens have right now, and it's Scream with a slight lead, it's Pele with a couple of kills, and it's a jungler that really feels like it can compete. And so maybe the next few minutes pivotal for this Highland Ravens team and keeping that pace going. That said, Panatom is going to get there eventually, the Susano.
Wow.
Great at changing around the game. Wall up from Hurrywin, but also a couple up from Jake. Screams over in duo. Netrioid does not have beads. Or yes, he does. Not anymore, though. And nearly enough damage from Scream on the dash in. Beads off of the CERN. By the end of this fight, Netrioid does not have beads anymore. Scream making his presence felt on left for the first time this game.
Yeah, I think maybe Earthen Fury comes in just in time to keep Netrioid alive there. Blink for blink exchange in the jungle. These junglers now without that relic. But is it Hurrywin that's under threat?
Panatom, if he had Blink here, Hurrywin would be in a lot more danger. Hurry does not have ultimate. A slightly tanky Ymir, enough to delay his death. But awesome Jake, death from above received by Barracuda. And he'll trade out over on the left side, support for support.
Man, death from above is just such a good ability, isn't it? The damage output, the defense shred, all there. But it's the chase down potential as well. If that's maybe just about any other hunter, Jake might have been able to make his way out or perhaps drag the Highland Ravens into an unfavorable position. But because Barracuda holds onto that ultimate so well, he's able to turn things around. And that's only becoming more powerful now that he's finished up this Transcendence, starting to work on some of those stacks, likely going down that Mace tree next as well. Could be that the only Warriors need to make a concentrated effort to start slowing down this Marty. If they do, though, that's going to leave Pagon in a precarious position where he's been the recipient of a lot of aggression, and his roundabout way of dealing with it is not being in mid. It's, I'm in the side lane, I'm on the blue buff, I'm on your back camps, I'm looking at your red buff. I'm not going to stand in mid where I'm stagnant, and Scream has an easy time finding me. But even that roundabout counterplay is starting to slowly stack up against Pagon. A lot of his waves have been going into this tower. A lot of this gold has been lost out. At least 2 minions in the last 3 waves lost that tower. And that experience now is starting to favor Ven.
Yeah, Ven right around the 600 XP per minute. Pagon about 50 behind. That's good for maybe half a level, depending on when Pagon's going to hit that level 10 mark. And this is great for Ven, who has found a lot of success on a lot of different mid laners so far this year. Loves these control style mages. This one, more artillery style if you're looking at Thoth. It's a style of pick Ven has made work for the Highland Ravens this year, and it's made them such a difficult team to deal with. You wondered how Ven and Barra would look, changing up their teammates a bit. You lose Lasbra, but you gain Scream in the jungle. Really, space control hasn't been much of a concern for the Highland Ravens over the course of Season 10 so far. Getting to Venenu ends up being a big concern point for the Oni Warriors. Couple walls exchanged here. Hurrywin sends one up. So to Awesome Jake. And it's just a wild hunt from Netrioid to really disengage the fight.
Yeah, get used to seeing that from Hurrywin, by the way. Everybody on the Oni Warriors, easy to lock down in these jungle fights. Those walls so disruptive. No standard leaps for the Chaos side. Panatom teleported through it?
Oh, he goes through the ultimate. Doesn't matter. The play, it's beautiful, but the play does not pay off. goes over the ultimate, I guess through from Ven. But unfortunately, too many members of the Highland Ravens on the other side, and that's the 4th kill of the game for the Ravens.
A smart rotation from Haddix as well to make sure that there was no escape path for Panatom. But this was the issue in Game 1 where the Highland Ravens maybe got some kills early. Where do they go next? What's the question you ask after? There isn't one. A rotation from Haddix doesn't net him a whole lot. And in fact, it's the only Warriors asking the question, yo, Haddix went back to lane. I know it. Is he ready to get back to this Gold Fury? I don't think so.
And Ven does not have Final Judgment. Scream does not have Ultimate. And Pagon uses his on the Gold Fury. Small moment that nets 800 or so gold of a lead for the Oni Warriors. It's the what's next question that the Oni Warriors are so good at asking. And the Ravens, I don't know, maybe you don't feel like the burn is quite there. Barra's stacking up his Transcendence. Ven's got some flat pen online. But man, the Warriors, again, just so good at playing every ounce of this map. Though it's Scream who really feels like has been setting the pace so far this game.
He's been setting the pace, and he's been starting a lot of these fights well. He is not ahead, Dave. He's actually about a half level behind. Panatom's been sitting comfortably at 11. And Scream is now perhaps the most valuable objective on the map, barring Fire Giant itself, which I think unfeasible at this point. At 3-0, a significant bounty for whoever's able to knock down this Pele. And Pele is not a god that is good at staying alive on their dive.
Then dove by Panatom, Typhoon, dash in enough. The last tower shot didn't get him, but Scream sure will. 4th of the game for the Pele. This Oni Warriors team playing aggressively beneath a tier 2 tower. You gotta know death lurks anywhere when you're that far in the enemy side of the map. This time Death's name is Scream. 4-0-1, could be 5. Fossum Jake falls prey. Good initial lockdown from Hurrywind onto the Terra. But Awesome Jake will scurry away from this fight. A-OK. That's a good counterpunch from the Highland Ravens.
I think that is a value trade for the Oni Warriors. You've eliminated Ven, who had a pretty significant lead, let's call it an entire level over Pagon, and still does have that level lead through the respawn timer. So you trade out Panatom for Ven. Panatom's been even or ahead up against Scream, whose bounty has now been pushed even further ahead with an additional kill notched on his belt. Now 4-0 on the Pele. Eventually Scream's going to have to die. That's just the nature of Pele and how she plays in the team fight. It's the timing of which. It's who gets that kill. I think it'll be very significant for the pacing of the Oni Warriors and their builds. Eventually he's going to have to. It's Volcanic Lightning forward. I created space. I dealt damage. But you don't have an escape path afterward.
Wow, it's a fight over in the jungle. After a double freeze from Hurrywind, I wouldn't say it would save his life. There wasn't that much damage through. This could be a big fight. Pyromancer.
Good wall.
Down beneath half HP.
Great wall.
On and off the horse, though, as SOT didn't love his look at the cavalry charge. So now, Guan Yu's ultimate gone. Pagon left running. Oh, crushing wave ends up hitting Hurrywind. After Pagon's ulting away from the front line, Panatom doing the same. Netroid through the Aegis, through the dash, somehow lives. Though Haddix, without Colossal Fury, doesn't have much chase down himself. In fact, now, the Highland Ravens doubling back, doubling away. This is a favorable trade, 2-for-1 for the Oni Warriors.
Exactly what I was talking about, Dave. Eventually, Scream's going to have to die.
That's right.
Because he has to get involved in these fights. He has to make his way into the back line. He has to hit the priority targets. Unfortunately, he lands into a Typhoon this time, and the kill does go to Panatom, which should have pushed his gold pretty significantly, at least to match up with what Scream had with all those kills himself, or even potentially a little bit further ahead. Net worth reveals it's slightly ahead now for Panatom out of the jungle. And this Susano has been an issue. The Oni Warriors' pace has been an issue. Pyromancer belongs to them, and another objective now lost, the Highland Ravens. Best they can hope for is a Tier 1 tower here.
That's what their hope is, and that's what they'll get. There's always this threat of the Oni Warriors going back in, initiating on you when you least expect it. The next fight that looms, Primal Fury. Ravens quickly here. Haddix still over on the right side, but has teleport. SOT does not
Pagon on right.
have teleport. Might be the easiest objective pull you'll see the Highland Ravens get. Normally it's the Oni Warriors so quick to group around these Furies, around these objectives. But not an insta-pull from the Ravens. Just that threat of the Oni Warriors enough.
That's the difference right there. The Oni Warriors are pulling that and saying, are you ready to defend? Show us that you can do it. Show me the answer. Give me your proofs. The Highland Ravens don't demand that. They show presence. and aren't quite willing to generate that threat. This hesitation has allowed now Pagon to come all the way back from the right side of the map, get back and left, regroup with his team. SOT, who didn't have the teleport, doesn't matter. He's been able to walk over. He's been given so much time because the Highland Ravens are just hovering around this Fury. No questions asked. No pool has happened just yet. They're just spinning their wheels, and the Only Warriors are fine with it. They had already taken the win on the right.
SOT has been able to rotate over towards left now. The walls from Hurrywind have been aplenty, and they've caught out targets once or twice. Bera chunked a bit by Pagon, who does not take any damage in exchange.
Watch this. Look at this rotation.
You're right. Highland Ravens up and
fold
through
back.
the Fury pits. The Oni Warriors able to read it effectively. Still a couple members of the Oni Warriors who are not here. It's SOT rotating out of mid. It's Awesome Jake, who has been stunned by Hurrywind on the opening thread of this fight. Panatom is going to loop, I thought, wide and around. Pagon's got to leave the engagement, though. Scream now tower diving the tier 1 on left. But there's enough disengage. Awesome Jake wants to turn this fight around. Final Judgment canceled as Panatom has found the back line, but Ven will live for now. Hurrywind won't. Now Sot hops on the horse, and he'll find a stun and a set of beads off Barracuda and Ven. The walls are up and together from Awesome Jake, and now it's Haddix's time.
Haddix, Colossal Fury looks pretty good until the damage starts coming back his way. Has to play smart here. Doesn't have the time to do it. Netroid knocks him down. And Dave, this is all because the Highland Ravens over the last minute spend the entire time sitting in the Gold Fury pit saying, "You better watch out. I'm winding up this punch. It's coming any second now. I'm going to sock you right in the mouth." And the only way to say, "Okay, do it. We're ready. I've been watching you swing for a full minute." Nothing connects. The Highland Ravens, overzealous on their chase, dive into the tier 1 and get immediately turned on.
I'm sorry, Bera. Without death from above, it'll be death on the ground instead. Panatom another 4-2-4 on the Susano. After what was a much slower start than what Scream had. Scream was 4-0 at one point in this game, remember? And that has been stuffed by the Oni Warriors. In the margin just starting to grow a bit here, Myth. That 4,000 mark, you know, we were there 10, 15 minutes into game 1. We're there at the 17-minute mark here in game 2. Where you wonder if the Oni Warriors just have enough now. Do they just have enough to walk down? Bera's still dead for 5. So how impactful is that kill on the Barracuda? That's the question. Big chunk of damage. Hurrywind in behind. Final Judgment hits Panatom, but actually maybe not as much as Ven would have hoped. Tier 1, Tier 2, and out for the Oni Warriors, but a fight in mid. Scream will get a clean 1v1 over Pagon. That was needed. Just a breath for the Highland Ravens to have some type of advantage on the map.
Got to be able to do something with it. Pagon's gone for 30 seconds. Pyromancer will be up in that time. 3 seconds until that respawns. If the Highland Ravens can regroup, jump onto that objective, it's not a massive win, but it removes something from the Oni Warriors. It stops them from doing it, which I think is just as valuable. This has been the issue. What do you do after the pick? What can you do with that time? The Highland Ravens, they're grouped up first. Pyromancer's pulled. The Oni Warriors likely will not show up to this one, so I like this from the Ravens. Get something after the pick, take something away from the Warriors, put a bomb in your pocket, and all of a sudden, now you've got an opportunity with another pick to run down a tower or potentially look towards the fire.
Man, the Warriors are just relentless, aren't they? The Ravens have numbers on map, but not on right, because Barracuda's pushing down the tier 1 on the left. Oni Warriors will do the same over in mid. Awesome Jake puts up a pillar, and Scream pulled back by Panatom. Typhoon should seal the deal, and it does, but it's a blink back forward from Haddix. That's Final Judgment from Ven that flies through the fight. Awesome Jake caught out in the jungle. One last dash and a second secures his escape, but maybe still more if the Highland Ravens are able to chase it down. So Tower's really getting traded all over the map right now, and Jungler's traded over in the jungle.
I love what we saw from Haddix there. It's pretty often Vimanas are only really finding impact in the ultimate. There, it's a blink forward from Haddix immediately into the dash to close gap and potentially find that knock-up to secure Scream's escape. Unfortunately, it doesn't pan out for him, but the vision was there. He deserves every bit of praise for even attempting it. The Oni Warriors, though, in a 1-for-1 trade, continue their pressure, this time on right. Netroid, don't lie, and that's where the push is. Wherever this CERN has grouped up, and now with SOT, maybe it's Bastions, maybe it's a tier 1, but Hurrywind's rotation should slow it down.
SOT, Heart Ward, sensing a lot of this damage. Gonna be rolling out of the Thoth. You're right, Bastions are there. It's Gets a Gold Fury in the next 45 seconds, which always feels nice to get, but maybe not something you're trying to throw a team's life away from or for. Especially when the Fire Giant can get burnt. There's only one Runic Bomb on the map. Hurrywin's got it. You wonder if that does give some pause, though, to the Oni Warriors, sensing that there is a little bit of extra burst from Ven, a little bit of extra burst from Hurrywin, but you've got a crushing wave on your side. But I don't know, Miff. I don't know if we haven't seen way too many like coin flippy type Fire Giants. Oni Warriors, though, really at risk of just pulling it at any moment, it feels like. This is a team that groups quickly, swiftly, and will catch you off guard.
Yeah, Pagon is deep in the enemy jungle right now. Concerned about his positioning, but has backed himself up. The Highland Ravens, this is the portion of the game where you're really going to see the value from Ven. What's happening right now, this poke from what feels like the entire map's distance away, that's going to be a thorn in the side of the Oni Warriors. They've got sustain. You're going to get it from SOT, you're going to get it from Jake, but it's not that burst of healing like an Aphrodite had in the last one. And Ven, having the Divine Ruin, should be able to keep that poke sticking to them, should be able to mitigate a good deal of that sustain on the side of the Warriors. Ven is the major keystone to success here. Yep. He is all important to the Highland Ravens team fight. He's their poke from range, he's their kill secure, he's their objective secure, and he's the dive target for the Oni Warriors. If the Highland Ravens, and specifically Hurrywin, can keep Ven alive, Scream's not going to have too many eyes on him. For the most part, should be allowed to get into that backline pretty easily, just by the threat generated by Ven existing on map. Barracuda as well. Likely going to be a part of that peel duty. Just make sure Ven doesn't have to operate on his own. I think very important now for the Highland Ravens to play through him. Oni Warriors, though, they're never resting, Dave. Always asking something. Is there any vision over here on the Gold Fury? We're not going to drop a sentry. We're not going to check. We're just going to pull it.
Yep.
Netroid gets it for free.
Could be impactful. But again, still 4,500 or so gold. Tends to be enough for the Oni Warriors to feel comfortable. Granted, a 4,000 gold deficit may have the Oni Warriors still feeling comfortable and at liberty to fight at any moment. Pagon a late Charon's coin, so won't build up any of those stacks just yet. And most of the stacking items that have been picked up, if not all of them, have already been there. Man, a clean sweep of neutral objectives. Again, I guess you're not trading out lives for Pyro, lives for Gold Fury at this point in the game, but it's those small increments that really build up for the Oni Warriors. Now they've got a Runic Bomb. Think about how important those were in knocking down towers. Phoenixes over in game number 1. This is that risky moment, though, Miff, for the Highland Ravens, where you've really fallen behind in gold. You might need to step up to this Fire Giant if the Oni Warriors pick it up, because you know how the Oni Warriors like to play down the stretch, especially on Siege.
Yeah, I think certainly an opportunity to defend. I love the defense capacity of this draft from the Highland Ravens. I've not loved the propensity that we've seen so far to allow these objectives to fall down, though, both Gold and Pyromancer.
Well, that's where game 1 kind of slipped away a little extra, you know? There were 2-3 full rotations of the neutral objectives.
And we're on pace for the exact same thing here in game 2. But the Highland Ravens, they made the Oni Warriors earn it on defense. I don't think there are many teams in the league that drag that game to 30 minutes. So perhaps the Ravens equally confident in their ability to play on their own base, or perhaps waiting for an unforced error. If that's the case, if it's the latter, good luck. Oni Warriors don't make too many of those mistakes, not often. Not in a game 2 situation here. I think Doug's right to hover Panatom, who should be hunting Ven, has not made contact, has not got eyes on him, but should soon.
Going to be difficult. Ven is so far back.
It's the target.
And has a nice patch of grass to dance around inside of. Welcome to the next few minutes of this game of Smite. Both teams drawing a line at the FG pit. However, between these two teams, hard-pressed to see a super long Fire Giant dance commencing. It feels like Pagon the type of player at some point to be like, all right, I'm bored. I'm just going to blink in, see if I can find a knock-up and
he's got blink.
Get something going. And Hurrywin does not. You know, every once in a while you're at risk of a blink in from a Ymir, a wall, a freeze, and suddenly the fight is flipped. Hurrywin's just going to have to stumble forward, whereas Atadix and Scream, that'll be doing a lot of the blink initiating for the Highland Ravens. And by some of it, I mean all of it. And really, we're not fighting for a Fire Giant. We're fighting underneath a Tier 2 tower. Hurrywin cancels it out. Barracuda does as well, but Death from Above is just chased down. The Oni Warriors are waiting on the ground for the landing of the Marty. Haddix in Colossal Fury He's more worried than he is angry. Rumbles away from the fight, and the Oni Warriors have cleanly gotten a pick on Ibera.
And it's so simple for the Warriors, and it almost makes me feel foolish because it's not a version of Smite we see so often. It's the Highland Rim saying, okay, they're going for a tier 1 tower. They can't break stalemate on Fire Giant. They're going to try and take a structure. Incorrect. They saw Scream in mid. They want your lives. They want Barracuda off the map so they can get fire. The Oni Warriors walk directly through the tower, say, I don't care. It's a tier 1. We're 25 minutes in. This is nothing. This is peanuts. I don't care. And go for the kill immediately afterward. Phantom Shell aggressively so that Crushing Wave can be used directly into the enemy. The Oni Warriors, it's just a speed of play question. They're playing faster than anybody else.
And that's going to keep going. Right side Phoenix, Siege.
Where are the Ravens?
Ravens were clearing out the jungle. In fact, Scream is still over in mid. Teleport.
Should be able to get it. He's got it.
Sot gets here in time, but unfortunately gets here in time in the sense that he's now in mid. And I actually wonder, is this an opportunity for the Oni Warriors to just collapse in on the Highland Ravens? Hurrywin steps forward. This is awkward. The Ravens, Myth, are having such a hard time figuring out how to play this. Ven
You can't back.
uses the Aegis. Barracuda, death from above. Pagon dodges out. Final Judgment. Scream is low, but never got killed off. Over on the left side of this fight, Haddock's hoping to chase down Pagon. He will. One last auto. And there's actually maybe limited damage now as Panatom and Netrioid are split on this fight. Ravens do an okay job there of finding something. And Jake's able to get out.
Yeah, time to start running away. Haddock's stepping forward here. Still has access to the ultimate, but does not have a hasten, so won't be able to stick to him too easily. I like the idea there from Sot. I'll stop Scream from backing. Keep up your siege. The chase down potential from the Oni Warriors is pretty high, and they do find their one, but the one being Hurrywin and the damage coming from Ven so nearby cost them greatly. Pagon for Hurry, not a trade you want to make just about ever. But with Fire Giant still on 4 and Pagon back on the map in just under 15 seconds, shouldn't cost them too much. Grab a Fury, grab another tier 2. You've already taken the right side Phoenix, so the majority, the lion's share of the work done. The base broken from the Highland Ravens. But this is what I was talking about in Game 1, how the Ravens were able to fight back, find those defense opportunities, and extend the game. They've done so again. That pick on Pagon might just be enough to keep the rest of their birds alive. And because that right side bird had fallen so early into this Fire Giant play, it might just be back up in time for the next Fire Giant defense. You can now defend the wave simultaneously on right while contesting the Fire Giant, and you should only really have to deal with maybe 1 or 2 waves of enhanced minions while the Fire Giant is up.
That said, as the Oni Warriors we're talking about, you know, they will try to get every bit of this Fire Giant buff if they feel like they've got the opportunity. For now, it's 3 members over on left, while the Highland Ravens will still hold their defense over in the mid lane. Scream's actually going for a bit of a roundabout gank, potentially. Sot channeling, canceling his back.
You think Sot's worried? I don't think so. He's got a horse.
Nah, something tells me he's feeling A-okay. And in development, though, the back's not going to get stopped because 3 members of the Oni Warriors were pushing down the left side Phoenix, and everyone from the Ravens outside of Scream backs and moves to defend their base. I was wondering if we would see a slight siege on this mid lane tier 2, but the Oni Warriors uninterested. Starting to reach the point in the game, though, Myth, we're full build, really close for most of the players. Panatom the first to hit it. Right after that, Haddock's, SOT, just a bit further behind them. And this is going to be right on the edge of an enhanced and regular Fire Giant. In the game, and the importance is going to change drastically maybe 45 seconds after this FG spawns.
Yeah, we'll see. I doubt this Fire Giant goes down before being enhanced. No way. The Oni Warriors, even if they are given the opportunity, likely would just wait it out. The Highland Ravens will be able to show face as well, I believe. So defense potential, but it won't be easy. Look at vision on map. The Oni Warriors control the entirety of the right side. I mean, 1 Sentry Ward from Ven, able to get a little bit of space back, but so much of the map already belongs to Chaos that I don't think the Highland Ravens will be able to step forward without the Oni Warriors knowing literally every one of their positions. Fire Giant respawn, 30 seconds away from being enhanced. Neither side confident in their pool just yet. Only a couple more enhanced minion waves on right. It's Panatom who makes contact first. Scream!
Whoa! Soloed over in solo lane, despite the fight happening over by FG. An ejection handle ripped by the Highland Ravens. They immediately back away. I mean, that was your 5-2 jungler. He was full build. Now
He was
you've
4-0
lost
earlier.
that. He was 4-0 earlier. Has gotten 1 kill and 3 deaths in that time span. Enhanced Fire Giant by the time it goes down. And maybe the Ravens feeling the weight of that potential. The Ravens will step forward, but Panatom over in mid. He'll rotate forward. Hurdywind, remember, cannot blink into this. Haddox can, but his blink will get reset. Haddox steps forward, but the Fire Giant's been reset. Instead, the Oni
Pagon's
Warriors
low.
looking for the fight. Ven channeling Final Judgment. You're right, Pagon's low. But Pagon's going to move back with the rest of the Oni Warriors. The Fire Giant will go down in time. Haddox was going to step forward, and no more kills will happen. The Oni Warriors get EFG. In the meantime, the right side Phoenix is respawned.
It has. No more enhanced waves, so the only Warriors have to do it the old-fashioned way. Is an enhanced Fire Giant, though, so should be able.
Old-fashioned way, what? Like walking up and downhill 5 miles in the snow to get to school?
Yeah, that's right. Both ways uphill. It's
Right.
awful. There was a rickety bridge. I thought I was going to lose a foot one time.
That's how the Ravens might feel getting back into this game.
Miserable.
Miserable. Cold, scared, nervous. Dodges a lot. Netroid sent out a wild hunt, maybe for some disengage.
Man, Ven's doing so
I
much.
was going to say, Ven is getting towards full build. Ven's got 26k damage. Next highest, 18,000. And that's Barracuda. So yeah, poke damage hasn't been an issue, but again, it's this double healer style comp. You got some sustain from Sot, some sustain from Jake. And it has just been difficult for the Highland Ravens to make that poke turn into kills and turn into objectives.
At this point, for the Oni Warriors, haven't seen repeated attempts on Phoenixes or on Sieges up against Ven. I think it's got to be either a split push or a pick. Those are the two things that could really open up the door. Wherever Ven is, it just seems like the Oni Warriors are not going to see success on this siege. So if they can go for a 3-1 split, 3-1-1, or 3-2, or 4-1, any one of those to just split up the Highland Ravens, I think, going to be very valuable. The difficulty comes from the Martikaras as well. That Marty on defense, almost similar to a Merlin, not nearly as good, but similar levels of, hey, I'm going to throw out persistent damage on field that is going to deal with these minion waves very easily from a safe range. He could do that too. So that's why I bring up the 3-1-1 potential for the Oni Warriors. You really want Ven and Barracuda separated.
For now, they are. Barracuda's over on left, though Ven can hover back and forth. Ven a bit far forward here. Luckily, there's no threat of pulling him back in. Haddox feels like he's got an opening, and he does. It's a crushing wave away from Pagon. Scream! Dashes forward and finishes off the kill. Now the Oni Warriors, without their mid laner, don't have much fight left. The Highland Ravens, man, that is a small opening, but they found it. Pagon has not had a great game, 2-5. You can tell the Oni Warriors still fishing, hoping that someone from the Ravens overextends, but Ravens read it well.
That's such a smart play from the Highland Ravens. Have Haddox in first, force the Crushing Wave defensively. Okay, yeah, Crushing Wave's done. Scream can get active. Blink forward, Volcanic Lightning for even further distance, and the chase down is there. And the damage output certainly there as well. The entire risk for Scream, if he wants to deal with Pagon, is Water Spout, Crushing Wave, I'm dead. There's not a lot of counterplay. You can pre-beads it, but the damage output will still be there, and it still happens incredibly fast. So having Haddox remove at least one layer of entropy, get that ultimate cooldown off, makes it so much easier for the jungler of the Highland Ravens to find his value. This Vamana has done a whole lot up until this point, and if he wants to win, if the Highland Ravens want a win, he's going to have to continue doing a whole lot.
You will. Those blinks, so impactful. I mean, look, you 3 or so seconds away from one another. You get a pretty clear picture of how that fight happened and how Pagon was maybe caught a bit off guard. Luckily for the Oni Warriors, the timing between that kill and the next EFG pretty small. However, in that time frame, builds have been completed. Hurdywind just one item behind Awesome Jake. Other than that, we are equal across the board. Everyone's healthy in the relic department. Now about how the game gets played. Hurdywind sure a couple levels behind, but while the Ymir has been quiet, has reached a point where could be feeling okay to set up a wall. Haddox on a solo mission here. He'll be pulled back by Panatom. A little bit of poke out. Hurdywind sent aside as well. Ravens got to be careful. They don't have the Warriors don't have the same range advantage that you do with Ven, but they can pull you in if you step too far forward.
And then when he steps too far forward, if Water Spout connects, you're accidentally stepping even further forward. So positioning paramount for the Highland Ravens. These little patches of grass that Barracuda's able to toss out.
I wonder where they are.
Yeah, they're significant. There's a couple of them around here. You don't necessarily know, not all the time. And if Ven's able to post up inside of them, that damage output still significant. Hit 2 ticks of hieroglyphic assault, and that's just enough.
Oh, this is awkward. Oh, it's awkward for Scream, and he agrees.
So
Panatom
fast.
deletes the Pele.
Oh, no.
A double on the Typhoon. Oh, no.
Oh, God.
It's all gone sideways right at the end. The Oni Warriors, they'll catch the Ravens off guard.
Oh, it's brutal.
The Ravens are the ones with the grass, but it's the Oni Warriors with the D side. And it's the Oni Warriors still spotless. And the Oni Warriors winning game 2.
I mean, that is just ridiculous. Pagon makes it happen. Once more, trades his life. You've never seen 2 and 6 look so good. This Hebo just doing so
you see
much
that
for his
picture
team.
he posted on Twitter?
No, what'd he do? Let's hear it.
My man's jacked. He's yoked.
Was that actually? I saw that. I thought
Yes.
that was Photoshop.
No,
That's
he's
him.
huge.
Dude, that guy's huge.
He's big, he's scared, he's 2 and 6 and doesn't care because he is still undefeated,
The ultimate stealth build.
as are the rest of the Oni Warriors. Pagon claps his hands a bit. Man, this team, they're something special this year. We wondered if the kickoff tournament was flash in a pan, if the rest of the league would catch up. If they have not. And this was the, now I don't want to discount the Gladiators, but this was the big threat early in the weekend to one of the undefeated streaks.